Welcome back, everyone, to Beat the Game. It's Steve, and it's time to continue that Guardian cycle. Yes, and our next player up is the Star-Lord. Who? Peter Quill. That's right. Stupid joke. Never mind. All right, guys. So, again, if you guys like these videos, please give it a like, subscribe, share, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Let's keep going. All right. So, Mr. Peter Quill. Personally, this was a challenge for me. I remember when I tried Star-Lord for the first time. I did not have a good time with his pre-con. It was a mess. I just couldn't figure it out. It took me a while, and this is, I think, something like that. It was a high risk, high reward kind of character, which is very thematic to the character, but didn't really correlate with my playstyle, and it made me really dislike the character. I've played him since, and I've grown to enjoy how to play the Star-Lord character. It's not one of my go-to heroes, but every once in a while I do like to bring him up. So let's take a look at Mr. Quill. He is a 3 recovery outlaw with a setup ability. He is a smooth talker with a hand of 6 and 10 hit points. His Smooth Talker ability is an action to choose a card from your hand, and you swap that from the top card of your deck, so that's once per round. And then he's got this setup to search his deck and discard pile for a copy of an element gun, upgrade and add that to our hand, and then shuffle our deck. All right, cool. And as Star Lord, he has 2 thwart, 2 attack, and 1 defense. Oof, so sad for that defense. He is a guardian, and he has a static ability which says each ally you control gains the guardian trait. And then he has this what could go wrong ability, as in is an interrupt. When you play a card from your hand, you can deal yourself an encounter card, and to reduce that by 3. So you can play heroic by cheapening your stuff. So it's risk reward. He has a hand size of 5 and 10 hit points. He has amazing potential to do lots and lots of damage, but it does come at a high price. So he's one of those characters that you definitely want to start kind of slow and build up. So now let's take a look at some of his cards that make him unique. Well, first of all, he has his super cool helmet, and this helmet is basically his key component. If you don't have this, everything can go wrong. So what can go wrong says while you're in hero form, you get +1 hand size for each face down encounter card in front of you to a maximum of 3. So again, so you can go up to an 8 hand size, which is huge. But when you're dealing with 4 encounter cards a turn, sometimes a hand size of 8 might not be enough to save your behind. So you got to, it's good for 1 or 2 turns, but then after that, it can get really, really dangerous. But again, that's how the character plays. So his helmet, definitely a card that you want to prioritize. His jet boots, it's an interesting card. It's a 2-cost upgrade that gives him the aerial trait. And then when he would take some damage, you can exhaust it and reduce the amount of damage by the number of encounter cards. So it's an okay card. I wish it did a little bit more. But it's only once. So if it was like a consistent thing, I thought, or when the villain attacks and then this can activate, I think that would have been a little bit better. But again, they don't want to make him too good either. All right. And then there's this other one, which is the leader of the Guardians, which is a 3-cost upgrade. It's a title that gives each Guardian character +1 thwart. So all of your allies get +1 thwart. That is huge. This is another super solid card, especially if you're going to play a lot of allies. Very, very powerful card here. So that gives you a lot of possibilities for control. And then one of my favorite cards here is his Bad Boy. And then this is your lifeline. So this is the money card here to save your butt. So when you would take any amount of damage from the villain's attack, it's only from the villain's attack. You discard this card and you prevent all of the damage. You change to alter ego and draw 2 cards. So again, so you have a hand size of 8 and you have this on the table, and then you flip down on the villain's attack, and then you all of a sudden you have 10 cards in hand. Wow, you can really, really bring down the boss super, super fast. So he's kind of like this fast and loose. And his two next upgrades, he's got two of these element guns that we talked about, which he can go and pick up. And these are key. These element guns are restricted, and you can only have two restricted cards again. And then it's a hero attack. It's spend a resource to deal 3 damage, and the attack gains piercing. It doesn't gain range, which is weird because it is a gun, but it does have piercing, right? So they don't give piercing to spears, but they do give it to guns. But the guns aren't ranged. All right. So anyway, that's me just being silly about the some of the little weird interactions in the game. So he has a lot of good setup cards, and once you have those cards on the table, he becomes very, very powerful. Do all the fun stuff. All right, then he's got his events. All right, so he's got 3 events that are extremely fun, which are the Daring Escapes, and it gives you an encounter card to ready your hero and draw an extra card. So it's cool. You draw a card, you get an encounter card, and you ready. So it allows you to do a couple of things during a turn. Again, when you start playing, if you play these too early, you might get in over your head before you can actually do something, and then you're like, oh man, I lost on turn 1. Well, you had 5 encounter cards in front of you on turn 1. What do you expect? So there you go. So I like the Daring Escapes, but this is more of a mid-game card for me. Again, you might like to play this fast and loose, and you might, use it differently, and it might work out, it might not. So again, all part of the charm of the character. Then we have his gutsy moves. These gutsy moves are remove 2 threat and an additional 2 threat for each encounter card in front of you. So it can be 2 to 4, 2 to 6, 2 to 8, 2 to 10, 2 to 12. It all depends how many cards you have in front of you. So again, another great risk reward card that can become really, really interesting. And then finally, his real money card, because he has so many money cards. It's so good. He's just got so many great cards in this kit. And then I think this is the one we call the sliding shot. Now this is the finish card. So this is, you can only play if you have an element gun. So if you don't have that element gun, it doesn't work. And it's 5 damage and 2 additional damage for each encounter card in front of you. So if you remember when you start against Venom Goblin on your turn 1, you can do 5, 7, 9. You can do 11 damage for 3. That's pretty darn powerful. So if you play 2 of these in a turn, that's 22 damage. You've basically killed the boss on turn 1 with Venom Goblin. So it could be incredibly satisfying to one-shot the villain. Very, very powerful card. And then also, he doesn't only have powerful card, he also has one of the most powerful allies in the game, which is Nova Prime. With 2 thwart, 3 attack, 3 health. He is an aerial from the Nova Corps. And after you play Nova Prime from your hand, you defeat a non-elite minion. Wow. So that just comes in, and let's say you have a Hydro Patrol Guard or a Hydro Guard, and you can just defeat it and not even take an extra encounter card. So that's super, super fun. Those are the cards that make Star-Lord unique. And as you can see, you really have to either play into the mechanic. If you're playing a scenario that's a little bit easier, let's say you're playing Rhino or Absorbing Man or something simple with an easy modular set, then go ham out, just have some fun, take those extra encounter cards. You can probably deal with it. If you're playing a more challenging scenario, I would be a lot more careful because you might just create your own frustrations with the Star-Lord. All right, let's go take a look at his precon and what it comes with and how we can improve on what FFG gave us. All right, so he came into the leadership aspect and only 4 reprints, so the 2 powers of and the 2 get readies, which I was very happy to see. That is a limited amount of reprints only. And then we got some cool new things. So let's talk about the allies first. So we got Adam Warlock, which is a crazy cool ally that has multiple effects when you discard cards. Yondu, who takes no consequential damage, so very, very fun. And then we have Beta Ray Bill, who can kill minions and remove threat at the same time. Super solid. And then we got Cosmo, the Wonder Dog, who's very, very cool in a Doctor Strange deck. But aside from that, he's just interesting puppy that you can build off. Then we got in the leadership cards, we got Blaze of Glory, which is super thematic to the Guardians. That gives all of them +2/+2 until the end of the round, but then they take an additional damage at the end. We got Air Supremacy that gives us cards to actually now build off the aerial trait. We got the Laser Blaster that gives +1 attack and overkill. We got Target Practice that gives +2 attack. It's kind of like a mean swing for allies, which is pretty cool. If they're equipped with a weapon, we got Nowhere that allows us to have more allies in play. And then we got Pulse Grenade, which is a terrible card. Yeah, and then we got CITT. Actually, Pulse Grenade, it really depends on the modular. If you play a modular like Sinister Assault that is all 3 boost icons, then this becomes very, very possibility are very, very powerful because then you can discard 2 cards and then for each boost icon. So if you're playing that scenario with like a bunch of 3 boost icons and even the 4 boost icons, then you can really have some fun with these. But it's one of those cards that is just like it's a gamble, which is very thematic to the deck. All right. So how the deck wants to be played out, obviously they want you to really. They didn't give you a lot of double resources. They really want you to use this what could go wrong ability, and that was kind of driven into me as well. I'm like, I want to use this ability. I don't want to use it. I don't want. I'm facing off against something that's going to kill me. So again, so it's always that thematic, should I not, which is very, very thematic with the character. So on theme, a billion times awesome. On efficiency, could have been better. But that's just me. Again, some people like it, some people love it. Again, it's just a pre-constructed deck. So how would I improve that? Well, first things first, I would get rid of these pulse grenades. These are the first 3 cards I would get rid of for me. The other one I would be getting rid of is the Aerial Supremacy. Now, it's not a bad card and it allows you to deal with a whole bunch of things. But the only aerial characters that we have is Star-Lord once he has his boots. We got Adam Warlock and we got Richard Rider, which is Nova Prime. So there's only 3 characters. So it's 2 to deal 3, 3, and 3. So not bad. It's like a semi board wipe which is interesting. But I think for the pre-constructed deck, it's too hard to build because we're going to be using our allies mostly to block. So these are like 6 cards that I would easily remove. Also, I think I'd remove one of these laser blasters. And then the rest is pretty solid. The Blaze of Glories you want to keep because that is just how you finish the game way faster. So those 7 cards are what I would remove. So these pulse grenades, the air supremacy, and 1 laser blaster. 2 is fun because you want to have one on Yondu and one on Better Ray Bill. The other ones, they don't really need it, but these 2 characters, once they get them, it's you kind of want to keep them alive. All right, so that's going to go into what cards are we adding to make this pre-con better. All right, well, I won't no surprise. I'm going to be surprised when I say the 3 first cards I would add are the 3 double resources in the basic cards. There's, I wouldn't. That's exactly what this deck needed. Just a couple of more ways to pay for cards faster to help you build faster. And then again, like I said, it's a leadership deck. You need allies, especially if you're taking all these extra encounter cards. The villain's going to attack you multiple times, so you need some friends to help you out. So obviously, Mockingbird comes into play. Nick Fury as well. It's when you can. What can go wrong? Nick Fury for 1 resources and then draw 3 extra. You're golden. And then finally, a Hawkeye, because then Hawkeye can deal some damage and then can combo off with the Better Ray Bill. So all these allies. And then the last one I would add is a first aid. Just because I want to keep, if I pay for Better Ray Bill, he ain't going away. So the other thing, if you want, I would add a second first aid and I would remove a target practice, or I would remove 1 Blaze of Glory, got a second target practice, a second first aid, depending on how long the game is going to last. But I think 1 first aid is good. It's just if you want to, you might keep more than 1 character alive there, especially Yondu, because if you start playing Blaze of Glory, Yondu is gonna die, especially if he takes that 1 point of damage. All right, because he is a guardian, even if you flip down. So there's kind of one of the tricks here. So when you play Blaze of Glory, and if you play non-guardian allies, you play the Blaze of Glory, and then you flip down, and then all the Guardian characters are not going to take the extra damage. So that's one of the strategies when you can play him with Avengers, or you can play him with all whatever other type of ally. That's one of the cool ways to cheat the penalty here. So that is what I would suggest for a very very solid pre-con experience, modified pre-con experience. Now let's go take a look at some of the hero packs that can increase Star-Lord's already amazing awesomeness. All right, guys, so I have 4 hero packs to recommend, depending on what aspect you like Star-Lord in, and 2 honorable mentions. The first hero pack that I would highly, highly recommend to get, and really goes into the style and spirit of Star-Lord, is the War Machine hero pack. Now, the reason why is cards like Sneak Attack, where you can kind of just cheat in, and not only that, because it has his face on it, but this allows you to play stuff a lot cheaper and not have to rely on his ability until you are ready. So Sneak Attack is a great one with cards like Go Down Swinging, Save the Day, Command Team. And once you have the aerial trait, then you can actually bring in cards like Falcon and Captain Marvel. These are all cards that were presented in the War Machine pack. So these are 6 leadership cards that really, really can enhance the Star-Lord experience. The second hero pack that I would highly recommend would be the Venom hero pack. Now, the Venom hero pack gives us a bunch of things, but mostly for Justice cards. But there's a couple of leadership cards as well. So if you want to continue on that leadership team, the first one would be Welcome Aboard, that reduces the cost of the next Guardian play or the next ally played this phase by 2. And that can not only help you, but it can also help anybody you're playing with. So really, really fun. Then in protection, you have Shake It Off. So let's say he takes a damage, and then from an attack, obviously it's going to have to be from an attack, but you can take 1 damage from a minion and then get a tough status card, and then the boss comes and tries at you again, and then you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to shake it off. And then in the justice aspect, great, amazing cards like the Sonic Rifle, making an entrance, which allows you to healing, and his thwart is pretty solid. And then super cool ally like Jack Flag. Once you have your leader of the Guardians, he can thwart for 3 and then deal 2 damage, thwart for 3, deal 2 damage, thwart for 3. So that's very, very powerful. And then a card like Crew Quarters. So these are my 2 prime choices for the Star-Lord experience. And then I do really enjoy the justice aspect of Star-Lord. He can remove a ton of threat, and nobody can help him out better than the Nebula pack with cards like One Way or Another, adding threat to draw cards. There you go, why not? Add a side scheme to the mix, get more cards. Again, all in the mentality of what can go wrong. And then cards like Justice Serve, where you can actually ready after you remove all that threat. And then super good allies like Wraith that can cancel boost icons and boost cards. And then Venom, who can be really, really powerful as well. And then a cool one for leadership if you want to play into the let's prop up or let's build up our Guardians team with some cool weapons. Guardians of the Galaxy allows you to draw cards when you equip your allies. So super fun. This would be my third choice. And then my almost made it to the podium would be the Wasp hero pack. This is if you like him in aggression, obviously giving us the extra double resources for Gray. Cards like Ironheart and then Spider-Man are really good. Cheap blockers for Star-Lord and actually gets you to draw a card. And the power of things plays for like Nowhere and all these other good cards that came in his kit. The Dog, Nowhere, what's the other one? CITT. So all these cards that you can play with. And then there's some great aggression cards like the Boot Camp and then Into the Fray that can add so much value to your experience. So these are my 4 top cards. Let's not forget that Star-Lord already came with some really good aerial cards like the Dive Bomb, Ever Vigilant, which is definitely the master. I would get the Star-Lord Hero Pack just for Ever Vigilant, and then cards like Agile Flight. So which is okay. It's not a bad card. It's a good threat removal card if you have the aerial trait. All right, my two honorable mentions. The first one would be Draxipoo because he came with four really nice cards. If you like him in leadership, he gave us regroup again, so you can recycle all those allies. So good. And then you have think fast for justice, which can help you stay alive, go to alter ego, rebuild a hand size, and then come right back to hero form. Then he also gave us Hard Knocks if you like him in protection. That gives him tough status cards when he defeats minions, so that's cool. And then he gave us the ally Gamora that can also search for events every time she activates and add an event to our hand. These are four really good cards for our friend Star Lord. And then finally, the last honorable mention, and just because she only brings out one card, and that is the Force Field Generator. That card is so good with Star Lord. You just, what can go wrong? Then you have a shield of 6. Yeah, and you don't have to exhaust. You can just okay, first attack is free, and then I can do some more stuff. So there you go. So those are my little recommendations for Mr. Star Lord. Again, he's a very, very fun hero to play. The games never last too long. Either you win fast or you lose fast. And yeah, that's all I'll say about Star Lord. And then we'll see Gamora in a couple days for the next hero pack. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you play the game with Star Lord. You never know what can go wrong, and sometimes you'll beat the game. Ciao, ciao. See you next time.